All in a golden afternoon. All in the golden afternoon, full leisurely we glide, for both our oars with little skill, by little arms applied, while little hands make vain pretence our wanderings to guide. Ah, cruel three, in such an hour, beneath such dreamy weather, to beg a tale of breath too weak to stir the tiniest feather. Yet what can one poor voice avail against three tongues together? Imperious Prima flashes forth her edict to begin it. In gentler tones Secunda hopes there will be nonsense in it, while Tertia interrupts the tale not more than once a minute. Anon to sudden silence won, in fancy they pursue the dream child moving through a land of wonders wild and new, in friendly chat with bird and beast, and half believe it true. And ever as the story drained the wells of fancy dry, and faintly strove that weary one to put the subject by, the rest next time, it is next time, the happy voices cry. Thus grew the tale of Wonderland, thus slowly, one by one, its quaint events were hammered out, and now the tale is done, and home we steer a merry crew beneath the setting sun. Alice, a childish story take, and with a gentle hand lay it where childhood's dreams are twined in memory's mystic band, like pilgrims' weathered wreath of flowers plucked in a far-off land. You are old, Father William. You are old, Father William, the young man said, and your hair has become very white, and yet you incessantly stand on your head. Do you think at your age it is right? In my youth, Father William replied to his son, I feared it might injure the brain, but now that I am perfectly sure I have none, why do it again and again? You are old, said the youth, as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncommonly fat. Yet you turned a back somersault in at the door. Pray, what is the reason for that? In my youth, said the sage as he shook his grey locks, I kept all my limbs very supple. By the use of this ointment, 1 shilling the box. Allow me to sell you a couple? You are old, said the youth, and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suet. Yet you finished the goose with the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it? In my youth, said his father, I took to the law and argued each case with my wife, and the muscular strength which it gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life. You are old, said the youth. One would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever. Yet you balanced an eel on the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever? I have answered 3 questions, and that is enough, said his father. Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs. The White Rabbit's Evidence. They told me you had been to her and mentioned me to him. She gave me a good character, but said I would not swim. He sent me them word I had not gone. We know it to be true. If she should push the matter on, what would become of you? I gave her 1, they gave him 2, you gave us 3 or more. They all returned from him to you, though they were mine before. If I or she should chance to be involved in this affair, he trusts to you to set them free exactly as we were. My notion was that you had been, before she had this fit, an obstacle that came between he and ourselves and it. Don't let him know she liked them best, for this must ever be a secret kept from all the rest between yourself and me. Prologue to Through the Looking Glass. Child of the pure, unclouded brow and dreaming eyes of wonder, though time be fleet and I and thou are half a life asunder, thy loving smile will surely hail the love-gift of a fairy tale. I have not seen thy sunny face, nor heard thy silver laughter. No thought of me shall find a place in thy young life's hereafter. Enough that now thou wilt not fail to listen to my fairy tale. A tale began in other days, when summer suns were glowing, a simple chime that served to time the rhythm of our rowing, whose echoes live in memory yet, though envious years would say forget. Come hearken then, ere voice of dread, with bitter tidings laden, shall summon to unwelcome bed and melancholy maiden. We are but older children, dear, who fret to find our bedtime near. Without the frost, the blinding snow, the storm wind's moody madness, within the firelight's ruddy glow, and childhood's nest of gladness, the magic words shall hold thee fast, thou shalt not heed the raving blast. And though the shadow of a sigh may tremble through the story, for happy summer's days gone by, and vanished summer glory, it shall not touch with breath of bale the pleasance of our fairy tale. Jabberwocky. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toads did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves and the mome raths our grabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the maxim foe he sought. So rested he by the tumtum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous Callooh, Callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toads did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths our grabe. The Walrus and the Carpenter. The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright, and this was odd because it was the middle of the night. The moon was shining sulkily because she thought the sun had got no business to be there after the day was done. It's very rude of him, she said, to come and spoil the fun. The sea was wet as wet could be, the sands were dry as dry. You could not see a cloud because no cloud was in the sky. No birds were flying overhead, there were no birds to fly. The Walrus and the Carpenter were walking close at hand. They wept like anything to see such quantities of sand. If this were only cleared away, they said, it would be grand. If 7 maids with 7 mops swept it for half a year, do you suppose, the Walrus said, that they could get it clear? I doubt it, said the Carpenter, and shed a bitter tear. Oh, oysters, come and walk with us, the Walrus did beseech. A pleasant walk, a pleasant talk along the briny beach. We cannot do with more than 4 to give a hand to each. The eldest oyster looked at him, but never a word he said. The eldest oyster winked his eye and shook his heavy head, meaning to say he did not choose to leave the oyster bed. But 4 young oysters hurried up, all eager for the treat. Their coats were brushed, their faces washed, their shoes were clean and neat, and this was odd because, they hadn't any feet. 4 other oysters followed them, and yet another 4, and thick and fast they came at last, and more and more and more, all hopping through the frothy waves and scrambling to shore. The Walrus and the Carpenter walked on a mile or so, and then they rested on a rock conveniently low, and all the little oysters stood and waited in a row. The time has come, the Walrus said, to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings, and why the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings. But wait a bit, the oysters cried, before we have our chat, for some of us are out of breath and all of us are fat. No hurry, said the Carpenter, they thanked him much for that. A loaf of bread, the Walrus said, is what we chiefly need. Pepper and vinegar besides are very good indeed. Now if you're ready, oysters dear, we can begin to feed. But not on us, the oysters cried, turning a little blue. After such kindness, that would be a dismal thing to do. The night is fine, the Walrus said. Do you admire the view? It was so kind of you to come, and you are so very nice. The Carpenter said nothing but, cut us another slice. I wish you were not quite so deaf, I've had to ask you twice. It seems a shame, the Walrus said, to play them such a trick, after we've brought them out so far and made them trot so quick. The Carpenter said nothing but, the butter's spread too thick. I weep for you, the Walrus said, I deeply sympathize. With sobs and tears he sorted out those of the largest size, holding his pocket handkerchief before his streaming eyes. Oh, oysters, said the Carpenter, you've had a pleasant run. Shall we be trotting home again? But answer came there none, and this was scarcely odd, because they'd eaten every one. A sitting on a gate. I'll tell thee everything I can, there's little to relate. I saw an aged man a-sitting on a gate. Who are you, aged man, I said, and how is it you live? And his answer trickled through my head like water through a sieve. He said, I look for butterflies that sleep among the wheat. I make them into mutton pies and sell them in the street. I sell them unto men, he said, who sail on stormy seas. And that's the way I get my bread, a trifle, if you please. But I was thinking of a plan to dye one's whiskers green, and always use so large a fan that they could not be seen. So having no reply to give to what the old man said, I cried, "Come tell me how you live," and thumped him on the head. His accent smiled, took up the tale, and he said, "I go my ways, and when I find a mountain rill, I set it in a blaze, and thence they make the stuff they call Rowland's Macassar oil. Yet twopence halfpenny is all they give me for my toil." But I was thinking of a way to feed oneself on batter, and so go on from day to day, getting a little fatter. I shook him well from side to side until his face was blue. "Come tell me how you live," I cried, "and what it is you do." He said, "I hunt for haddocks' eyes amongst the heather bright, and work them into waistcoat buttons in the silent night. And these I do not sell for gold or copper of silvery shine, but for a copper halfpenny, and that will purchase 9. I sometimes dig for buttered rolls, or set lime twigs for crabs. I sometimes search the grassy knolls for wheels of hansom cabs. And that's the way," he gave a wink, "by which I get my wealth, and very gladly will I drink your honour's noble health." I heard him then, for I had just completed my design, to keep the Menai bridge from rust by boiling it in wine. I thanked him much for telling me the way he got his wealth, but chiefly for his wish that he might drink my noble health. And now if by chance I put my fingers into glue, or madly squeeze a right-hand foot into a left-hand shoe, or if I drop upon my toe a very heavy weight, I weep, for it reminds me so of that man I used to know, whose look was mild, whose speech was slow, whose hair was whiter than the snow, whose face was very like a crow, with eyes like cinder all aglow, who seemed distracted with his woe, who rocked his body to and fro, and muttered mumblingly and low, as if his mouth was full of dough, who snorted like a buffalo, that summer evening long ago, a-sitting on a gate. Wasp in a Wig. When I was young my ringlets waved and curled and crinkled on my head, and then they said you should be shaved and wear a yellow wig instead. But when I followed their advice, and they had noticed the effect, they said I did not look so nice as they had ventured to expect. They said it did not fit, and so it made me look extremely plain. But what was I to do, you know? My ringlets would not grow again. So now that I am old and grey, and all my hair is nearly gone, they take my wig from me and say, "How can you put such rubbish on?" And still whenever I appear, they hoot at me and call me pig. And that is why they do it, dear, because I wear a yellow wig. A boat beneath a sunny sky. A boat beneath a sunny sky, lingering onward dreamily, in an evening of July. Children 3 that nestle near, eager eye and willing ear, please the simple tale to hear. Long has paled that sunny sky, echoes fade and memories die, autumn frosts have slain July. Still she haunts me phantom-wise, Alice moving under skies, never seen by waking eyes. Children yet the tale to hear, eager eye and willing ear, lovingly shall nestle near. In a wonderland they lie, dreaming as the days go by, dreaming as the summers die, ever drifting down the stream, lingering in the golden gleam. Life, what is it but a dream? My Fairy. I have a fairy by my side, which says I must not sleep. When once in pain I loudly cried, it said you must not weep. If full of mirth I smile and grin, it says you must not laugh. When once I wished to drink some gin, it said you must not quaff. When once a meal I wished to taste, it said you must not bite. When to the wars I went in haste, it said you must not fight. What may I do? At length I cried, tired of the painful task. The fairy quietly replied, and said, "You must not ask." Moral: you mustn't. Rules and regulations. A short direction to avoid dejection by variations in occupations and prolongation of relaxation and combinations of recreations and disputations of the state of the nation in adaptation to your station by invitations to friends and relations, by evitation of amputation, by permutation in conversation and deep reflection, you'll avoid dejection. Learn well your grammar and never stammer. Write well and neatly and sing most sweetly. Be enterprising, love early rising. Go walks of 6 miles. Have ready quick smiles with lightsome laughter, soft flowing after. Drink tea, not coffee. Never eat toffee. Eat bread with butter. Once more, don't stutter. Don't waste your money. Abstain from honey. Shut doors behind you. Don't slam them, mind you. Drink beer, not porter. Don't enter the water till to swim you are able. Sit close to the table. Take care of a candle. Shut a door by the handle. Don't push with your shoulder until you are older. Loose not a button. Refuse cold mutton. Starve your canaries. Believe in fairies. If you are able, don't have a stable. With any mangers, be rude to strangers. Moral: behave.